Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Trustcast Show. And we're happy to have with us this morning Josh Hodges. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
So, today's guest started out dipping hot metal into liquid plastic on a factory floor, working third shift to afford night classes, and is now the attorney who built one of Southwest Ohio's fastest growing injury law firms, collecting over $10 million for injured people in 2025 alone. Josh, the factory floor to the courtroom is a pretty extreme arc. Take me back. What was life like actually when you were running on a 30-minute nap in a parking lot and wondering how the hell this is all going to work out?
I've been trying to forget. Maybe it's been a long time ago. That's one thing I would say. Just it didn't happen overnight. It was a long slog. So we're talking back into my early 20s. I was doing that, and I didn't get done with undergrad till I was 29, and I didn't get through law school till I was in my 30s, and I didn't start the law firm till I was in my mid 30s, and now almost man 42. So it was about a 20-year trip, and it didn't when you're on a trip like that, it doesn't really seem like you're making as much progress as you are slowly. Like day to day, I was doing the right things, but it takes a long time to build up. And I wanted to give up along the way a few times, to be honest, especially when I was working the factory and going to school. It was just a lot. I had a kid. Um, but I'm just kind of stubborn too. So I just kept pushing after it. Before I knew it, got a little success and kind of builds on itself and you get a little more confidence. And then you kind of start figuring you can do a little bit of everything if you get a few things under your belt.
Do you have a few associates in your firm now?
Yeah, total we got I got one partner. Total there's 7 attorneys, and then we have about 25 non-lawyers, staff and assistants and whatnot. So about 30, a little bit over 30 total on the firm.
So you've been in business, let's say you said, is that about 7 years?
Yeah, July 1st would be our 8th year anniversary. So here in a couple months.
Well, congratulations. That is an interesting arc to go from where you were to where you are. And I'm sure it took a lot of determination and really hard work.
Yeah, it really did. But it was day by day. Just one step at a time. I've been with my wife since I was 18, so I'd say that definitely helped a lot. Just having someone who was always in my corner, pushing me when maybe days I didn't want to go, and just knowing that she would support me throughout. I was competitive, and once I started, I didn't want to quit. So I just kept after it, and it took me. I honestly, undergrad was the harder part for me than law school was because I was working full time, and I was only taking a class or two a semester, and when you're only knocking out 3 or 6 or 9 credits a year, it seems like you're never going to get done. But
Yeah.
I just kind of kept going. I ended up getting a job working for the state of Ohio, giving driving tests to kids, and that was a government job. And they offered to pay 80%, I think, of my tuition as long as I got a B. So then it was like I didn't have any excuse to quit because they were kind of paying for it. So I just kept chipping away at it. And before I knew it, I was almost done. So, and I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And then I ended up quitting my job and went to law school full time. So when I went to law school, I only was a student for the first time since high schools. Um, so I kind of just really sunk my teeth in and did well in law school because I had only one thing to concentrate on. It wasn't easy, but it felt like I had plenty of time because I was used to juggling a full time job and a kid and undergrad all at once. So that's kind of how it worked out.
How'd you do that with so did your wife then, or you had student loans and your wife working and the kid at home and still even going to law school? I imagine that's a, pretty big challenge.
Yeah, it was hard. In undergrad, because the good part about taking undergrad so slow like I did and kind of just paying as I went, when I got out of undergrad, I didn't know as much as a lot of people because I took me a decade to get through and I was kind of paying some of it as I went. So my tuition bill every semester wasn't crazy because I was only taking a class or two. So I would pay if it was 2,000, I might pay 1,000 of it down and only take a loan out for 1,000. So when I got out of undergrad, I think I only owed about 15 grand, which isn't nothing, but it wasn't 100 grand like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then when I went to law, I did good on the LSAT. I've always kind of been good at those tests. I don't think they determine who's going to be a good lawyer, but that's how they decide part of your scholarships if you're good at that test. And I've always kind of been good at those little IQ or little games, those stupid little tests they give. I've always been good at multiple choice. So I did
Yep.
real well on that. So in law school, I got a pretty good scholarship. That's why I decided to quit my job and just go for it. So they paid about 80% of it. So I kind of was fortunate or, did well with that. So I got out of law school with not as much debt as some people. So that definitely helped. Gave me more freedom. I got a job, a big law right out. And I
I
think
was going to ask you about that.
if I thought I
So
was
you
gonna,
originally on the
yeah,
other side, right?
yeah, I got a job in big law, which I didn't even know was a thing. When I went to law school, I kind of in my mind thought I'd be out on my own because that's what I thought most lawyers did. But when I got in law school, I realized there was these giant law firms. And I did go to law school and I got a job offer at one of those. So I took it just because it was a high salary. I figured my wife had been working and we had a kid and I hadn't had a job in a couple of years through law school. So I took that, figured it'd be a good learning experience. I could make some money if nothing else. I didn't hate it. But I just kept getting calls from people I grew up with that needed an attorney for things that a big law firm, corporate firm's not going to take on.
Right.
Kind of knew that I could get cases enough to survive, I guess. Whether I was naive or not, I just went for it in 2017.
In 2017. I'm going to pose a couple of situations. So I just got hit. I'm banged up. My car's wrecked. The other driver's insurance is already calling me. What do I do in the next 24 hours?
Yeah, I mean, if you're hurt, you need to go. I mean, you kind of forget you have a case or you have a car accident. You do the same thing if you fell down the stairs and it was your own fault and you're hurt. You need to go to the doctor and see what's wrong with your body because that's more important than anything with insurance. So I've had people stumbling around or limping around and they've got serious injuries and they haven't went to the doctor. So you have to go to the doctor for one to make sure you're okay and to document whatever injuries that are they're going to find because that's going to help you on the insurance part on the back end. If I don't have any documentation to show a client is injured, it makes the case a whole lot more difficult. And a lot of attorneys are not even going to be able to take your case if there's no medical documentation showing you're injured because you can't prove it otherwise. It'd just be your word, and that's not a very good case. You need treatment to show what happened to the client from an independent, doctor that has no stake in the claim. So that's one of the first things you need to do. I wouldn't talk to the insurance if it was me. If I was injured, I'd get an attorney, the local attorney that you want to get someone who handles these cases all the time too. I mean, you know, there's a lot of attorneys that are kind of jack of all trades, but I wouldn't get someone who does divorces and bankruptcies to do my injury claim. I would get someone who just handles that solely. Uh, I think that's important. Well, I also think it's important to get someone who's kind of close to your neck of the woods in most cases too. There's national firms that run ads all over the country, and I don't know. I think if you're in Hamilton, Ohio, where I live, and you get hurt, you probably want someone to at least know where that is. But everyone's going to make their choice. Some people want to hire the biggest firm they can see on TV. I don't always think that's the best idea. If you want to get someone who's familiar with your area, I think it's important.
So, so you got your own insurance company calling you and the other person's insurance company calling you. Should you talk to either one, or can you talk to one or not the other, or what's your take on that?
I usually would call a lawyer first. Typically, what ends up happening, you have two claims at least. So you'll have a claim for your property damage. Typically, a person can handle that part without an attorney because there's not as much to argue about. If the car's total and it's a 2020, Chevy Equinox, there's a value on that you can ascertain, and an attorney's not going to be able to take that to court and make it worth more. Where on a torn rotator cuff is much more complicated. How old's the person? How bad's the tear? Did it need surgery? How much PT did it get better? Did it not? Um, there's a lot more complications. Did they lose wages? You can't just type that into a computer and know what to ask for. They're not there. That's where the attorney can really kind of fight for you and advocate to get a fair value. So most of the time we're helping on the injury medical claim, which is separate from the car. Usually the car gets handled within, the first, couple weeks or a month, without a whole lot of help from us. We will give some advice sometimes, but usually that part the client can talk about with the insurance. I don't like them talking about their injuries. I don't like them talking about how the accident occurred because they could be trying to wiggle out of it and say you're at fault or partially at fault. Because a lot of times not every accident in life is 100% anyone's fault. Sometimes two people can be at fault. Maybe it's 80-20. They pulled out in front of you, but they can, say you're speeding and they can put some of the label on you. So it's better just not to talk to them about how it happened.
So, if I'm like immediately after the accident and I feel fine, and then like 2 days later, my knee is bothering me so much I can't walk around. Did I just hurt my case? I mean, if you feel fine, you're not going to go to the doctor right away. But
Yeah.
then 2 days later, it's that's what's happened. It's just like you in the moment you don't feel it. So how do you handle that kind of thing?
I wouldn't say it helped your case, but 2 days is not an extreme amount of gap. That's what they call it on the defense side. It's the gap in treatment defense. They won't say that in the courts, but that's what it is. The bigger the gap, the more hurts the case. So if you're telling me you get in a wreck and then a month later your knee hurts and you haven't went to the doctor in a month, that's going to be pretty bad for the case. I'm not saying it's impossible, but that would be a lot worse than 2 days. 2 days is not too bad because a lot of times you don't start hurting for the next till the next day or
Hmm.
two. Adrenaline wears off. But what you will, if you weren't hurting, you're not hurting. But as soon as you start hurting, you need to see the doctor. The longer you let it, then you're hurting your case kind of with knowledge. Your knee hurts and you try to walk it off for 3 weeks and then you go, you know, you still should go because you want to get better. You want your knee to get improved, but that does not help the case. The longer it goes, the worse it hurts.
What's the first thing most accidents do that ends up most accident victims do that ends up hurting them? What's the most common thing they do that ends up hurting them?
I mean, sometimes if it's kind of a more minor accident or they perceive it as more minor, they might not call police at all and they'll just exchange insurance with somebody, trusting the person who hit them. That's not a good idea. Next thing you know, it's not even their name they gave you and you never find them again. I mean, I've had that. It So that'd be one thing. Not taking pictures of the scene, not taking pictures of their accident if there's bruises of their injuries. Uh, Trying to do it on their own for too long and then calling an attorney like a year into it, after they've already made a bunch of statements or lost evidence. That can be really bad. Um, yeah, I mean, trying to negotiate on their own because the insurance companies they're going to try to get out as cheap as they can. Even when you have an attorney, it's not like they just do whatever I tell them. They still fight us. I think a lot of what insurance companies have done well is they've kind of indoctrinated the public or like brainwashed them to think that they should feel guilty for filing a claim. Most of my clients, when they come to me, they're like, Josh, I'm not the type of person who sues. Most people. But if you ask a room of 100 people, and I've done this before, are there way too many frivolous lawsuits? Everyone's hand on this will go. But then when I
Hmm.
ask, have you ever done that, Zane? Everyone's hand will go down because no one's ever done that, really. Or has your mother or your friend? No, they haven't either. Like, well, then who are all these people filing all these fake claims? Attorneys like me only get paid if we win. So if I file a bunch of fake claims, this is going to waste my time because we're going to lose a bunch and I'm not going to get paid anything. And I'm not going to be able to pay my staff to work on a bunch of cases we're going to lose. But the insurance companies kind of press that narrative out there so people feel guilty about using their own insurance. It's really uh, kind of an interesting phenomenon. People will call me, they've paid for uninsured motorists for 30 years, never use it. And then they'll say, well, I don't want to use my insurance. Well, why did you pay extra for uninsured all those years? I mean, you wouldn't say that about using the gallon of milk you buy. You drink that, you pay for it, you should use it. That's if the time comes. So you kind of have to talk people through what this insurance is for, why they paid extra, and why they should use it or not have it at all. What's the point of having it if you're not going to use it? So it's kind of interesting. Most of our clients are not sue happy or people who want to file lawsuits. They're actually the opposite of that. They're not exaggerating their injuries. Usually they're kind of under exaggerating and trying to tough it
Hmm.
out too much. So it's kind of funny. It's not when I tell people I'm an injury lawyer, I know what they think, and it's usually the opposite of what they think is reality, in my opinion, in my experience.
So, have you ever had somebody post something online and then have that come back and bite them in the ass?
Yeah, that's a good point. Social media, the insurance companies and the defense attorneys will look at your social media. Um, Most of, I've had it hurt us. A lot of times it's more the defense or the insurance is just trying to throw stuff at us to make us nervous about our case because we'll take a picture off of Facebook where somebody went to Disneyland and they're smiling with their kid in front of Mickey Mouse or whatever. And I don't think juries are really going to believe that means that their life was honky dory and they weren't suffering. There was no
Hmm.
just because you broke your leg or you broke your back. I don't think most normal people assume that means you can't live your life and try to struggle through. Um, but I mean, if you're up there doing backflips on parasailing or whatever, that could hurt. I mean, just depends. What it is.
So, what do you do in the case where you have somebody who comes to you, they're injured, they went to the doctor, they did everything that they should do to protect their rights, but then the other driver doesn't have any insurance.
it happens a lot. I think last time I checked in Ohio, it's about 13, 14, 15% of people don't have insurance. I mean, that's not a minuscule number. That's a lot of people you pass every day that don't have insurance. And then even beyond not having insurance, there's a whole swath of people who are legally driving that don't have very much. Minimum coverage in Ohio, I don't know what state you're in, minimum coverage in Ohio, you only have to have $25,000 in coverage to
Mhm.
drive the road. And that sounds like a lot of money, I guess, but you don't get that in your hand. That will have to go toward medical bills. That will have to go to, if you have attorney's fees, whatever you got. So 25 grand if you're hurt very bad is not very much at all. So
Right.
really what I suggest people do, and I don't sell insurance and I don't make any money off this, is you should have uninsured motorists. When I was a kid, my mom and like the wisdom of my parents were, hey Josh, when you pay your car off, you can drop it down to liability because you don't have a loan on it anymore. And that is true, but it's not about the car, it's about your own physical body and your health. If you only have liability, nothing's protecting you from uninsured drivers. And so I always suggest you have uninsured motorists and at a limit that's higher than the minimum, like get a higher limit, to protect you. So me, I'm an injury lawyer. Obviously I see this all the time. So I have a higher limit than most people. And I know it doesn't matter. Hopefully I don't get in a wreck, but if I do, it doesn't really matter who crashes into me that much because I've got protection for me and anyone in my car. We're going to be better protected than most people are.
What if you were telling somebody or you're advising somebody to get, when let's say you have kids that are just starting to drive,
Yeah.
what would you tell them or what would you get them as far as amount for uninsured motorists?
I mean, it really depends on your situation. I mean, if you're a 35-year-old man, single, never gonna get married, never gonna have any kids, and you don't have a lot of assets, maybe roll the dice more if you don't care, but if you like me, I'm 42, my wife doesn't work, I had a daughter with special needs, and my son's in college. I need a lot because what if something happens to me? I need them to be taken care of. So pick, what number is that for you? It might be different, what someone's lifestyle, what your lifestyle is. But for me, I know if I get hit and I'm killed at the worst, I want my family to be taken care of. And,
Right.
years are young. I got a 19-year-old and I got an 8-year-old. So, getting them to adults and through college, whatever that costs, I think would be the, I know there's life insurance too, but sometimes you're not, sometimes you're in a wreck, you're hurt really bad. I can't work anymore. Maybe I hit my
Mhm.
head and I'm alive and well, except for I can't be a lawyer anymore because I lost the edge or whatever I had. So that, that sometimes that can be more expensive, if you need health care for long term. So the interesting thing is insurance is expensive. It's getting more expensive like everything else. But if you already have full coverage and say it's 100,000, that's what most people have, 100,000. Um, moving it from 100,000 to 250,000, it's not 2.5 times more. It might be $15 a month. That initial is expensive, but adding extra or getting $1 million umbrella with uninsured is not as much as people think. It's not like 10 times a million. If it's whatever it is to get 100, it might be $50. So, most people can afford to do a little bit better, I think, especially
Yeah, I myself just I just have $1 million umbrella just in case of something, your
yeah.
property, whatever. It kind of, kicks in. So exactly what you're talking about. So how do I know if my case is even worth hiring a lawyer? You know, how do I determine, that kind of thing?
I think the easy way is to call some lawyers that do injury because if it's not worth your time, it's not gonna be worth our time, and we'll tell you we don't want to take your case, because we get paid on a contingency. It's not hourly, so that's
Right.
one thing that kind of helps the client in a way that it's like a filter if you have a case that's worth pursuing. Because if it's a case that has no money in it for you, you're not owed anything, and there's no money in for me, I'll probably be more than likely to tell you, hey, sorry this happened, but it's not something I can help on because, there's not much there to be done. If there is more value in the case, or we think we can add value by, getting more from the insurance, then we're more likely to take the case, which would be the other thing is not every, we take big cases. I have cases that are catastrophic. People have died, people have been severely injured, life threatening injuries. We also have a lot of cases that are more on the mild side where, maybe someone's rear-ended and their neck hurts for a few weeks. They do some chiropractic or physical therapy and they feel better. That's still a case my firm will take, and help out. It might not be, no one's retiring in this case, but we'll get the medical bills paid. We'll get something for their inconvenience and pain and suffering. and, still helping somebody out. It takes the aggravation of doing the insurance company off your hands. We'll
Right.
do all the calls and make sure the bills get paid, make sure health insurance does what they need to do. And you can just kind of get back to whatever you need to do. So I think there's value in that as well, because it's aggravating dealing with them. I mean, I have a team of people who call the health insurances and call the hospitals and check on the bills for us so the client doesn't have to. So yeah, I mean, it can't hurt. I'd say if you've had to go to the ER and then do some follow-ups, usually it's worth getting a lawyer to help you. You're going to end up usually getting more in your pocket, and they'll handle all the aggravation for you.
So what happens if the insurance company just rushes in, they offer me this big check? Does that mean that they know they're gonna lose and that there's a bigger check waiting if I step back away from the situation and don't take an immediate settlement?
Yeah, I mean, usually you don't want to take a, what's a big check, I guess, what's big,
Right.
I've had cases where they've offered, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the ultimate outcome is over millions, or in the millions. It so that you just need more facts. Every case is different, uh, one of the sayings for an attorney is, "What's the easiest way to settle to get $1 million case or settle $1 million case? It's to screw up a $10 million case and only get 1 million." So like it depends. I mean, there's cases where, I mean, I've seen attorneys get verdicts in hundreds of millions of dollars for certain things that have occurred, and if they would have taken 50 million early on, that would have been a large chunk of money, and that would have turned out to be a bad idea, I guess. But it's depending. There are cases sometimes where maybe it's really minor, and a client calls in and says they offer me 7 grand. Sometimes it makes sense. It depends how bad you're hurt. It depends how much in damage total you occurred, and really assessing your damages is hard. A lot of people don't know how to do it. You don't, it's sometimes it's not just the medical bills you have now. We might have to hire a doctor to get an opinion on what your future medical bills are going to be, because you can't go back to
Mhm.
them again. You have to get it all this time. So if you're going to have future surgeries, we need to ascertain that now. What's that going to cost? What's it going to cost 10 years in the future when you need it? Are you going to have to retire earlier if you have a physical job? So there's a lot of kind of thought goes into it to adding up to what that number is. And ultimately, there's risks. Sometimes I might have a client that I think's owed 100 grand, but they've been offered 70. And if we go to court, maybe we can get 100 grand, but maybe we get 50, and sometimes clients are like, I don't really want to roll the dice. And, ultimately it's their decision. We advise what we think they should do. But, when you go to trial, there is a risk. If there's a settlement offer, that's guaranteed wherever that is, and some people want to roll the dice or push it more. Other people, just like in other things in life, some people like certainty.
So, can if I've had a pre-existing condition let's just use that a shoulder injury and then I get in the accident and I re-injure it, um, can the insurance company use that against me? I mean, see, it's a common situation because you just stressed out something that was already injured. Can they use that against me in court, and how do I
Well,
defend against that?
but yeah, they can bring it up because that's a fact. You had a bum shoulder. It wasn't perfect to begin with, but that doesn't mean you lose your case. So let's say if you had a 20-year-old baseball pitcher with a perfect shoulder and he had a wreck, whatever the delta is from where he is now back to a perfect shoulder is what would be owed to him. I don't know how old you are, but if you had a shoulder that maybe had an injury, we're not
20.
going you're 20 or whatever, 50 or whatever it is. We don't have to put you back to a perfect athlete specimen shoulder. We have to put you back to where you were. So if that was someone who'd already
Right.
had a rotator cuff injury and had a surgery, but now it's here, it's worse, finding that gap, that's what's owed. So they would be allowed to bring up, you know, where they thought it was, and we would argue about where it was. But if you didn't have pain before, now you do, that's what they'd be on. So we wouldn't be arguing that you had a pristine shoulder. We would be honest and say, because they're going to know if you've had medical records saying you had a bad shoulder before, we would get out in front of them and say, yeah, that is true, but things can get worse. Aggravating, prior injuries, they still would owe for the aggravation, and whatever, if you had more surgeries, obviously they'd owe for that. But you're hitting the nail on the head. That is very common case, and it opens up a can of worms of arguments because when we're being honest, sometimes even the defense doesn't know. We might not even know exactly where that was because I mean their back was kind of hurt already. Maybe they already had a disc surgery and now they're having pain. Even clients, when they're being honest, sometimes it's hard to exactly, pinpoint exactly how much worse it is, the pain.
Um, if I sign something to settle, and but then I change my mind later, or I feel like I've injured something. I mean, is that the end of it? You sign something, now you're done. You've committed yourself.
Eh, Probably, yeah. I mean, if you've signed the release and they've paid you and the case is over, then you usually can't go back. I have had cases where they sent like a link and my client clicked the link. And then when I called, then the client kind of was like, I didn't want to do that. And then when I called in, the insurance said, your client already settled. And I was like, well, then send me the release where they signed. And he was like, okay, okay. And then he never could find it, but he went off for settlement. So we had to file a lawsuit. And then when their lawyer got involved, like, well, whether they signed or not, we can't provide it. So it might as well not even have occurred. So we ended up being able to get more on that case. But yeah, you don't want to be, if you're signing paperwork about your injury, you're probably settling your case. I mean, that's what they would be sending you. But if you're unsure, you could always get the document you signed, bring it to the attorney. We would let you know, an attorney would let you know, like, yeah, that's a release and you signed away your rights. Well, no, maybe it was something else. Could have been released just to get medical records.
Mhm.
So there's different things you could be signing. But if you're talking numbers with them, yeah, you're negotiating your case more likely.
So your team crossed $10 million for injured clients in 2025 alone. What kind of cases drove that number?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, the majority of the way people get hurt in America, where there's insurance, that's one thing. Like people get hurt a lot of ways. Sometimes it's someone else's fault, but in cases like ours, of there has to usually be insurance for us to help the client get them something. If some bozo down the street hits you in the head with something, he may owe you money, but if he doesn't have insurance, he doesn't have any money. There's not a whole lot I can do. You can take him to court and get a piece of paper saying he owes you money, but if he's broke, he's broke, and that happens a lot. But bar fights and things like that, we get calls for that. But most of our cases are auto accidents, motorcycles, truck accidents. We also do a lot of dog bites. And someone's dog bites you, they would owe you a homeowner's claim, and then slip and falls in businesses. So those are the three main. And then there's oddball cases here and there where someone gets hurt in another way where we think, anytime it's someone's else's fault, you've been hurt by someone else's negligence, there's potential for a case, but we have to figure out, is there going to be money to be gotten for this client or not, or is it just we can't just chase it for just for fun of it. You can't get blood out of a turnip, so my grandma would say. So you gotta, typically you want an insurer or a company involved to where if you win, you can get your client something, because it doesn't do us any good just to get a judgment typically.
Right, right. So what does Southwest Ohio need from a local injury law firm that a big national firm or, the TV advertisers can't deliver? I mean, what makes the difference there?
I mean, I don't like, not my style really to badmouth any of them. Everybody, it's a free country, you can market all over, the country if you want. I do think, you know, a lot of people in smaller towns where I'm at, they'd rather go to the corner store or the corner butcher than go to a Walmart. And if you have a firm, I got a firm with a few offices in small towns, we'll end up meeting you in person and knowing your name and knowing the schools, and we give back to the community. I think that's important. But maybe some people like going to Walmart too. So it's a choice. But a lot of the national firms you get hired, the attorney won't even be from Ohio, let alone Southwest Ohio. They might not even be in the Midwest.
How do you do that if you're a national firm? I'm just asking out of curiosity's sake. So I do see a lot of these national firms advertising for auto accidents. A lot of times are they just like referral companies that refer out to other local firms, or are they actually trying to take those cases and run them from out of state as like settlement mills?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, I haven't worked at one, so I can't say for certain, but yeah, I know a lot of them refer out to local attorneys like me. They made big national firms make deals with local firms like us to take cases. They usually will have at least one attorney in the state. Maybe they take a real big one they like, they may keep, but I know they refer out a lot. And I've had cases referred to me from big firms too. Um, so yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. They'll take some of the cases themselves, they'll refer others out. Um, but you're not,
A
I mean,
lot of
it's
people think
good.
think that hiring a lawyer when I hire a lawyer, then everything is going to drag out forever. Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, I mean, insurance company in these cases, they're not quick. So and to get a fair deal, you can't rush. You only get one opportunity. So I think it's worth waiting in most cases, but not all of them take years and years and years. A fast case for us might take 6 months, the fastest it's ever going to happen, because usually we have to wait until the person's done treating. So if you're hurt and we're treating for 3 or 4 months, I don't even start thinking about negotiating until you're all better, because I don't know how bad you were hurt. How long did it take you to
Hmm.
get better? That's one of the main drivers of the value of your case. So we have to be patient. Then on the back end, we'll argue your medical bills and what is owed down too. So sometimes that takes time, but I'm helping you not pay back as much of your money. So, um, but yeah, cases can take a while. They can take 6 months. I've had them take 4 years, so it can be anywhere in there on average, a year or two for sure. Um, it just depends if it goes to litigation and how long it drags out. But, I've also had cases where, the initial offer, we end up getting 10 times more because we waited a year or two, and the clients are really happy they did.
Right.
But it's a frustrating process sometimes. We try to make it as easy as we can, but yeah, the clients are waiting sometimes. And that's part of the insurance's main defense. They like to delay and delay and delay because they know you get aggravated if you're my client. We start getting aggravated with me. That's their game. And that's part of our job is to keep the client engaged and keep the client, you know, strong and waiting. But, it's also hard sometimes. I've had clients take settlements that were not good enough for their case because they got in, just financially they wanted to give in, and I'm never going to force them. I'll try to tell them what I think they should do. But if you're getting evicted or you think you're going to, or, you lost your job, I'm not, I'm not the boss in your life to tell you should wait another year, so it's a thin line. I try to do my best to keep them in it to get a better deal for themselves. But sometimes, not every, you might have the exact same set of facts with two different people, and a good outcome for two different people is two different things sometimes.
Hmm. So your brand, Hometown Lawyer, um, you're out there on social media spotlighting businesses, local businesses and people. Is that right?
Yeah, we do that. I try to post a highlight of a business, a local small town business every day is kind of my goal.
So tell me about that. I think that's creative.
Yeah, I think it kind of went back to, the question about how are we different than national, like you got to let people know you are here, step one, or they won't even know you're here. I can't spend $1 million a month on TV ads like some of these guys. So I do social media, you can get on there for cheaper. And I love my communities I work in. I love my town I'm from. I love the little towns that we've built offices in. And I figured, during COVID, we really kind of started like doing little giveaways for gift cards because a lot of the small businesses were struggling. And we were fortunate, as injury lawyers, like the economy doesn't affect our work as much as others, and that's good and bad. When the
Hmm.
economy's really good, we're not really doing better. And when the economy kind of does worse, we're not really doing better because people, as long as people are driving, we kind of ours kind of stays steady. So during COVID, I kind of started doing giveaways for small businesses, and then kind of one thing left to another. I started doing videos on my phone, and they were well received, and I knew the businesses appreciated it. Then I hired a videographer to start doing more professional kind of free commercials for, we call it Around Town with the Hometown Lawyer. And yeah, I have a full-time employee who sets all those up. We try to, shoot one or we try to post one every day. We might have the video guy 2 or 3 times a month. We'll shoot 10 when we have him. And we've done that all over Southwest Ohio. And it's fun. I think a lot of people think lawyers are jerks. It kind of lets me show that, my personality a little bit. It gives back. It's good for the culture of the firm too. They know that we're shouting out others and it's not just about us all the time. And it, gets me out of the office here or there. It's fun, something creative outside of being a lawyer. And it's been interesting. A lot of firms from other states have reached out to me about that because they've seen it and they want to kind of brand them, not as
Yeah.
a lawyer, but like something similar. Like, because I can't beat the national players on, spending more money and being known broadly as much, but I can out Hamilton them and I can out Southwest Ohio anybody is kind of my goal. And if, that's how I can maybe win a little corner of the, the area for my firm.
So I know a guy in Dakota, and he says he does social media videos too on a regular basis, and he says that he loves the fact that even in his firm, the other lawyers, well, for him, the other lawyers don't do it, and he says he just cleans up.
Yeah, the lawyers here don't want to do it either. You know, most lawyers don't want to do it. It's not really fun to do. It looks more fun than it is. I've turned it into where I've liked it, but I didn't like it at first. I didn't want to be in front of a camera talking. It's been a progression. I've been doing a video almost every day since about 5, 6 years, and they were not very good at first, and I just kept at it. Kind of like I kept through going through school. I'm kind of stubborn. I knew I'd figure it out one way or the other, or I'd just keep being bad at it. But I figured if no other lawyers in your area are doing it, or your whatever business you're in, I know you talk to other business owners. If you're even if you're bad at it, but you're the only one in town doing it at all, then I think you're winning a little bit, and you'll get better at it, and you'll get more comfortable with it. And you don't have to be perfect. I mean, a lot of my videos are not very good. They're not even well edited. Sometimes the ones I do myself, they're just kind of haphazard. But that's the style. I'm a busy lawyer. I'm running around, but here I just saw this mural in this new building. What's up with that? People will comment. They'll tell me what's up with it, or they'll tell me where another one I should check out, or where their best place to get a sandwich is in town. So it kind of just builds a little community. I've had fun with it. My wife helps me with it. We do videos at home of her cooking. It's just kind of show me as a normal person. But it is a commitment. It's not something. I think a lot of people struggle with it because they'll say, "Okay, I'm going to do it," and then they do it for 30 days, and they're not rich yet, and their business isn't booming. That's not how this is going to work. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. Like you do it every 5 days a week for 2 years, I guarantee you'll look different. But if you do it 5 days a week for 5 weeks, you might be disappointed that you're not, buff yet. And social media, networking, all those things, it's like a lifetime commitment. Like I've kind of committed, as long as I'm in a business, I'm going to be doing something of this sort. I might change it up, do different things, but it's a long-term game.
Do you have clients who come to you that say, "I watched your video"?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like hard to even track, but people follow me on social media that had known me for a long time before I was even a lawyer. So it's hard to even track. They'll call in and they'll hire us, and they'll say, when my intake team asks them where they found us, they might say, "Well, I've known Josh since junior high school," which is true. But how do they know I'm an injury lawyer? Probably because they saw my videos the last 5 years. So it's kind of, I mean, is that a personal referral? Kind of, because they did know me for 30 years. But is it from videos on Facebook? Yeah, kind of too. And they're usually not going to bring up they're calling me because of the videos, but that's how they know what I do. It's the same with the radio, billboards or radio, or anything else. But we've grown every year. We're a lot busier than we were the year before, and every year. So I know it's played a big part in it. Uh, it also, one thing, obviously most people, attorneys or anyone doing social media for their business, they're hoping to get clients. I know it's helped me is getting employees, which a lot of times people complain about, but the young people that you want to work for you, they're on there too. So if they're a paralegal or a secretary at another law firm and they're watching my stuff all the time, they're more likely to put in for jobs when they see it. And that might be better than clients sometimes, getting people on your team. So doing well on social media, it's just kind of an opportunity magnet. I mean, I've been invited to speak. I mean, I don't know, you probably found me online too. So who knows who will watch this? It's just like networking. It's like throwing gas on regular networking, honestly, if you do social media right, in my opinion.
So, so you're that's interesting that you're talking about employees. So, do you think because you have this human element on your videos that helps with finding employees because they see, oh, this Josh, he's a regular guy. I kind of like him.
Yeah, I think the first step is they just know you exist, because they might not even have known I exist otherwise. And then, okay, they know I exist and I'm a regular guy, and then they don't hate me. Okay, like that's step two. But like most people don't know you exist. Um, and I got data points on it. About 5 years ago, I had a job opening for a receptionist. It was before was well known, in the area with social media or anything. And three people put in for it. I think it was open for 2 weeks, the job. Three people put in for it. I did phone interviews with all of them. I asked them all to come into the office. They all agreed. Only one showed up. She got the job. Thank God, she's done a good job. She still works for me. She's an intake manager now. She's moved up. But I had a choice with three people. Last summer, I put out the same job. I got like 75 within a day and a half. I had to turn it off because I was just getting too many. I wasn't gonna be able to even go through all resumes. And I know a part of that's because well known on social media in the area, and people know I exist.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have my choice of 76 people than 3. I mean, as would any.
Yep.
So yeah.
My hat's off to you, Josh. It's a interesting approach. I like the idea of featuring other businesses too. That's really builds a community around it. So I think we'll wind it up right here. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was great.
No, thanks for having me. Where would I check this out when we post it?
So well, hang on.